fought, set them up deep. Moore tried, failed. Morris over the top, takes the mark.
Now Wilmot, this is an audacious move. Through the gap, straight to goal. That's the way he knows. And that's the one he delivers.
For his next look, Henry Smith, it's stylish. He has arrived. Kick to the hot spots, wait for the awkward bounce. Charlie, quick release. Morris for his fourth. The Lions on the break. Fast break. Morris sets himself. Yes, it has to be his. Free kick. Raiders should stop, or he better goal. He's gold. It is a seismic result amongst the contenders, and the champs are still here.
This time last week, the Brisbane Lions got absolutely hammered by the Gold Coast Suns, and I sit here on this show, the Brisbane Lions Fancast. I'm prepared to write this one off, but I do want to see how we react next week against the Pies. Well, here we are, Sunday afternoon, the day after one of the great wins at the MCG. 2014, the last time the Brisbane Lions won down at the MCG against the Pies, and it was Jono Freeman kicking for that day that got us over the line. This time, big Logan Morris with a hefty bag of 6, and Henry Smith comes in for his first game of the year with 3. It is Brisbane Lions Fancast with JB and Patrick, all thanks to Hop On Brewery Tours and Crisp Communications. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, follow, all that sort of stuff across your favourite podcast platforms and YouTube. You can always shout us a coffee as well at our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. And we do have another tipster that's sent us a couple of dollary dues across the week. So I do want to give a big shout out to Nathan, who put some money into the tip jar. So a big shout out to you, Nathan. Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. And Patrick has got his coffee in hand as we speak, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also buy the Brisbane Lions Fancast merch at the website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. All right, that's the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into it. My goodness me, what a good win that was, Pat.
It was fantastic. Great to see a response by the big dogs in the midfield, and to see some new people, pop up and really make their case for a bit of change heading into finals, and a slightly different structure, and some interesting decisions going forward. So looking forward to the remainder of the season, and although Daddy Fags has said we need another win to make finals, I'm looking forward to finals too. So
it's definitely more likely than unlikely at this point. Let's go back to Thursday. The teams come in. Bruce Reville comes back in, and as does Henry Smith in place of Oscar McInerney. Kai Lohmann looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the home and away. Might come back for finals. As we learned as well, Kitty will be gone for the rest of the year. Let's just put a line through him. We won't be seeing him again, probably even at VFL level. So put him on ice, get him right for next year, and hopefully he can get some games under his belt next year as well.
It was a bit of a brutal injury report that we got, virtually after we just made all our changes, and then it was sort of like, well, Lohmann's out for a while, Coleman's out for a while, and we're like, oh, cool. So we're just redundant after all. But yeah, a bit of a brutal blow, I would say, but we handled it pretty well with selection. I was surprised to see Henry Smith come in.
I think we all were.
I would have expected Sam Day. I think we've been pretty unanimous, the two of us, in suggesting that had Henry Smith not had the issues with was it the stress fractures in his legs, as well as the concussion,
he had one in his foot.
He had a legs.
This was going to be the year for Henry. Last year, he obviously played a couple of games, and we said, he's the long-term prospect. The question about Joe Danaher, who's going to be that forward ruck, and we both said, Henry Smith is the long-term project. It will be his spot, but then injury sort of crawled him this year, and I didn't expect him to come back in. As you said, Sam Day seemed the most likely, but geez, good for him.
Yeah, he looked a different. He looked a different player as opposed to the back end of last year when he initially came in, and I think the two of us as well. I don't want to speak for you, so tell me if I'm wrong, but we last season liked the way that he presented, but I think he just lacked, he had a couple of shots on goal that went pretty horribly, but he presented well and he rucked reasonably well, and I think the potential was always going to be there, but it was a matter of getting a bit more of a smooth run, which he absolutely did not get. But I think what says a lot about a player is he looked more comfortable within the team. He was a bit more chatty, a bit more chirpy. You could tell that almost immediately, that it's almost like he felt like he belonged there rather than, oh shit, how did I get here? He felt like that's where he was supposed to be, and he really rose to the occasion. So well done to him. But going into the match, they made a few changes. They brought back, everyone.
Yeah, DeGoey, Pendlebury, and of course Bobby Hill, the man of our nightmares, comes back in and played the sub role. And was it not for a strange decision from Will Ashcroft to kick across the face of goal and gift Bobby Hill a goal at the end there? He was relatively ineffectual. I thought DeGoey actually was pretty good for them. Luckily, he was on managed minutes, so he didn't really have the chance to tear the game apart for them. But that's probably one of the more pleasing aspects of this is, Collingwood have suffered a few losses lately, but they've always had but we're missing X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C as well. That's why you won. It was good to beat a relatively full strength Collingwood side. Now, obviously, their back six is looking a little bit shaky at the moment without Jeremy Howe and Billy Frampton, and Bo McCreary is probably another one that is a walk-in into that first 23 that really makes a difference to the way they move their ball. So they are missing a couple, but we're missing a couple as well. Our back six has been absolutely rocked over the last 6 months, and it's going to have another change again this week with Froggy going down. So, swings and roundabouts, and luckily we're coming up against a Sydney team that is missing a few tall forwards, but we'll get to that a bit later on. So that was probably the most pleasing thing, is it was a relatively full-strength Collingwood side, and we won by 5 goals.
Yes, we did. I think you can, anyone can say that teams are missing players. I think the players that we're missing are quite awkward. Answorth is an awkward, replacement. Payne is very unique. And Lohman is, a bit of X factor. But we almost went for sort of more smooth ball users. Marshall played a pretty interesting game. I haven't really had a chance to kind of arrow in on how he played, and hopefully Jumping Jeff White does that for me so I can just look at it. But he seemed to be more like inside of the outside, if that makes any sense. So he wasn't playing as a pure runner. He was kind of in there as a bit of a link man, which different to say Levi, who's sort of purely more on the outside, which added an extra body to stoppage and stuff like that, and enabled us to kind of move the ball through. But we're chatting before we pressed play, and I think the first quarter we were probably lucky to be as to the good as we were. I mean, I thought it was a very even quarter, but we just made the most of our opportunities, which is something that hasn't happened often.
No.
So it was nice to see, but yeah, I think it was a pretty even. We were a bit better than them, but it was sort of the things. We weren't better because we were like pressuring as hard as we were in the third and fourth quarter. So it was just there were a few breaks. We made the most of what we had. And at quarter time, it was good value, but you're always thinking, well, Collingwood should be able to kind of pick up, and they did.
Oh, yeah.
But how often do we see it that we dominate territory and we dominate a game, and other teams get easy ones going the other way, or they get one on their first inside 50, and we were able to do that and absorb, and that happened in the third quarter as well. So I think the goals in the second quarter really... I mean, to be dominated like we were in the second quarter and still lead going into halftime, having gone behind, was really unique. So, the first half was very much an even contest, and the second half to me was our game, and we played that. Albeit we had a bit of a tactical shift. So, what was your read on the first half?
Yeah, Yeah, you basically spot on with that. Sort of, I thought the pressure was there, the intent was there, and obviously we were getting a fair amount of good use coming out of the midfield, which was obviously going to be what everyone was zeroed in on, considering what happened in the middle of the ground last week. The thing that really probably stood out for us was just our inability to stick tackles at key moments, and just those bigger bodies and like side bottom just seemingly untackleable, which is crazy. And there was, 2 or 3 that directly led to goals. I thought Lockie Schultz did a pretty good job on Zorko early on for them. And obviously, this time last week I said, we paid Nick Dacos zero respect. I hope we do something about him this time. And if Fags was asked it once, he was asked it 1,000 times in the lead up, during the game, post-game. What are you going to do about Nick Dacos? What are you going to do about Nick Dacos? And he was pretty steadfast that we were just going to play our system and back our midfield in to go head-to-head with those guys. And, in the end, it worked out. And I think it was Lockie that said, or Fag said in the post-match that Cam Bruce said, we're going to bring a fifth up to stoppage from our forward line and just sort of crowd him in. And anytime Nick Dacos gets the ball, anyone in the vicinity just crowd him in, cause a bit of panic, and that definitely seemed to work, because in that first half, it looked like he was gonna, have his way with us. He was using the ball well, he was getting the ball out of the middle pretty well, and he hit the scoreboard. So there is definitely a moment where you think, all right, maybe we need to pull the trigger and do something about this. But as Fags has proved over the last few years now, he's going to trust his players, and he did.
I found it astounding in the lead up that Gary Lyon suggested that the Lions never tag, because that was just an insane thing to say, given what we've done to players this season, last season. If you look at it and say, how many players have we got that can potentially run with players that we have sent to players, Petrarca, Raul, I know it didn't work last week, but we have plenty, Berry, Jasper, fucking whatever. So you could tell he was going to be in great form.
Yep.
Obviously,
it was interesting that Kingy suggested that Fleta go with Nick Dacos, and I thought, that's probably not a bad idea. Berry's got the running capability. Dunkley is good, but he's probably good for those particular types of midfielders, your Bontempellis, your Cripps, your sort of in bigger bodied mids, not necessarily the running types that Nick Dacos is. So, Fletcher going as a run with player is probably not the worst idea I've heard.
I think the leg speed for Jasper, because that's, I believe, what we did. We kind of split between Jasper and Jared Berry at the MCG last year, but Berry went off with a concussion quite early or something. So I feel like we tried that, and it was similar to what we did with Petrarca at the MCG earlier on last year too, where we were bringing one of the wingers in. Do you remember when there was like 500 throw-ins in the first minute or something like that? It was insane.
I do remember that, yes.
But I think it's the case of if the pressure chain kind of works for the midfield, and I think as much as anything, it earlier on, I think Darcy Cameron had a pretty good impact in the ruck, but Fort really lifted throughout the game to kind of limit, whether it was the ones over the top into space for Nakos to run onto, or whether they were sort of dropping it over the back and allowing him to run through the stoppage, because Collingwood were trying to make like a big donut of just space to run through the middle, and we assessed that, and we kind of, it was like we set up almost like a rugby league team to kind of cut off running channels as much as anything. And when you've got guys like Jordan De Goey that are more inclined to run one way, and we know because we've got players that are a bit like that too, but they won't go back the other way if the system kind of breaks down for them. So it was a really excellent job by the midfield coach and the midfield group. So chalk and cheese from last week, needless to say.
And it had to be as well. I was a bit surprised with our ball movement in the first half. I really thought it was going to be more a Geelong-style game where it's sort of get the ball moving as quickly as possible, up the middle as much as possible. And Collingwood did a pretty good job to shut down the corridor as much as they could. And, there were times where our chip mark game was a little bit slow, and we did end up bombing it down the line a bit more than I expected and probably would have hoped. I thought, but the second half, certainly we started working the angles a little bit more. The ball movement wasn't quite as quick as it was against the Cats, but the angles were there. and it didn't solely rely on Zorko pulling off miraculous kicks as well, because he was, by his standards, had a quietish night. So
they obviously put a lot of time into him, which I don't know what's with Schultz being like a good player exclusively. I mean, I know he's got the best inside 50 kick in the league, but he looks like a chimney sweep, I reckon.
He does, he's got that old-fashioned look.
He's dishevelled. If he was covered in soot, dead ringer. Bit of Victorian era style thing. I said that in the Discord during the game, and crickets, understandably. So, but yeah, fair enough to him. I thought, and Fags made mention to it in the press conference, that our defence did extremely well in the second quarter to defend their entries and only limit a certain number of shots, albeit like 5 of them were goals, but to keep, what was it? It was the 3 big guys and then Jamie Elliott to a goal apiece. That's pretty good. You take that. And I think up the other end, this kind of slightly slower ball movement, I think with their relatively inexperienced back line, it just enabled us to kind of go to those one-on-ones and back the win in those one. Because Darcy Moore's not a great one-on-one defender, and I think you can see the difference between him and Harris, where Harris, we've struggled a bit with Harris's one-on-one defending at times this year, but I still think Harris is a worlds better one-on-one defender than Moore is. And Moore got exposed again. Yeah. So it's all well and good. He speaks well. He talks positivity about the team, and he's ultimately good for the game. But he's suspect player, and that's been the case since Murphy retired. And I know it's a bit different when Frampton's there, but to see the revolving door that Harris has had to deal with, particularly in the back end of last year and through this year, it just shows quite how special Harris is. So
yeah, I thought Harris had a really good game this week. Really good game.
Yep, he was excellent. 15 spoils or something like that. So he was everywhere and over the top. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that the team as a whole were very, very unhappy with what transpired last week, and as a group, they all wanted to lift. They said at the end of the game that Logan Morris especially was really unhappy with the way he performed, and he made it his mission. You could tell that midfield, and that our whole midfield basically all ended up with 30 plus, like Lockie Neal with 36, McCluggage with 34, Dunkley 31, and Will Ashcroft with 30. So it's very rare you get, your 4 best midfielders all topping 30 plus in the touches. So you could tell they were out for blood, and we can't have it, roller coaster, hot and cold. We do need stability and consistency, especially at this time of year. So it was really good to see them as a group respond the way that they did, because that was always going to be, Collingwood are a pretty good contested team. They're not the best by any stretch, but they're pretty good. And of course, their ability to score from turnover and from the back half is elite. So it was really good that we could shut that aspect of the game down. I think we got 2 goals from the back half across the game, and they're usually kicking 5, 6, 7. So to shut that down and to have that midfield group step up as a whole was really, really good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. They're sort of, they're not, you kind of nailed it, they're not a super contested team, but they have got that ability to go from that, inside to outside. So similar to us in that way, but they're run from the back half. And, Dan Houston didn't really do it. Josh Dacos's disposal is really good. But, at this point in time, you're looking at what Noble is doing on the Gold Coast, and you kind of compare it to Houston, and Houston was supposed to be this kind of upgrade to it. And it's like, yeah, well, sometimes it takes time. Now, halftime, both Zach Bailey and Cam Rayner were a little bit down.
Yeah.
But I thought they had excellent third quarters while simultaneously kind of screwing up some really pivotal things where you're sitting there going, all right, good job, guys. But if you had 150% of your brain cells, we'd be 5 goals up here, man. Like, come on. Burning players, not burning players when you should have burnt them. That one where Zach Bailey kind of plopped it up. It's like, just run in and kick the goal, dude. It's right there. But the show of intent, and I think Rayner's quarter, he only had 6 touches in the third quarter, but I think in terms of how much ball he had and how important he was at kind of generating repeat stoppages, he was in under there and he was sort of taking tackles and he was keeping the ball in to just sort of, create that momentum, because we were down. Like Froggy was down, and we had 2 guys that had not played games really, as well as Bruce Reville, who his engine is a bit suspect. So right. I think turning it into a bit more of a stoppage game and dragging it out, which I'm sure Greg Swan hated, probably was a tactic for us to try and, directive for us to try and do. But they had a really good third quarters, and gave us a bit of breathing room going into the last quarter, which, we bollocksed them, really.
We did, and we really had the chance in that fourth quarter, in the first sort of 10 minutes, to really put them away, and we just left the door open, which was so annoying. And Rayner was a big part of that as well. Like, he missed 2 shots, one that snap kick that he just absolutely munged, that flying shot from 60 where he had Logan Morris over the top, and then that moment where he kicks that goal from the boundary on his left on an advantage call that you could just tell is like, if this doesn't go through, you owe us one, buddy. And is that
he just proved that he's not Brent Daniels. So
and that first 10-15 minutes, as I'm talking about, we've got the chance to really get this game done, not queue in the rack stuff, but really make it difficult for Collingwood. And then Ashcroft gives away that, cardinal sin, never kick the ball across goal if there's anyone within 20 metres, to give Bobby Hill that goal. And he must have just not seen him, because there was a trainer in the area at the same time as well. But
do we know who that trainer was? Was he a Lions or a Collingwood guy?
No idea.
For all money, it looks like he was basically silhouetting Bobby Hill behind. Bobby Hill is a small of stature.
Yep.
So, come on. But yeah, that was mildly infuriating, because I think it was one of those ones where you're just like, well, he's got the ball, I'm going to half switch off my brain and assume it's going to go up the wing somewhere, and then you're like, well, what the hell happened there?
Yeah.
Oh, this is not ideal, is it? But we responded, which it feels like it's not a foregone conclusion that we do, but we actually do. I reckon if you looked at it statistically, it'd be like 97% of the time we respond. But that 3% is very present in your brain.
It was absolutely fantastic, and as you said, chalk and cheese from last week, and that really turned into, especially with the Gold Coast breathing down our necks, with Adelaide's big win, with the Dogs getting a massive win on Thursday night. Jeez. What the hell was that, by the way? That sort of turned into we actually sort of really need to win this game, not just to keep in touch with the top 4, but, keep our finals chances alive and hopefully get ourselves a home final, if not 2. So to pull that win out, absolutely huge. One thing's for sure is, if we should not see Oscar McInerney and Darcy Ford in the same team again, and I'm not sure if we're seeing Oscar again, if I'm perfectly honest, unless he is absolutely blitzing it in the 2s or Darcy Fort gets injured, because Darcy was so much better, playing as your number 1 ruckman, and we had our resting ruckman kick 3 goals, so we haven't had that.
Make a handful of himself, and it's the sort of thing where you can see him potentially growing into games and stuff like that. So, over the next, what have we got? 4 more games?
Yep.
That's
3 more.
That's
3 more.
3. That's plenty of time to generate a reasonable body of work. A couple of stats I enjoyed in the last quarter. Do you want to hear them?
I have a feeling I know what they are. Oh, by the way, just to touch back on Cam Rayner, he finished with 9 tackles. So, you could tell, even though he wasn't having the effect in the first half, him and Bailey, he was still there in a presence.
Absolutely. Well, these stats, so first off, Ned Long, no touches in the last quarter. Nick Dacos 3 touches in the last quarter. But funnier, Nick Dacos with a meters gained of, I think it's -2 in the last quarter. Which, -2. So cool.
So a lot of backwards handballs or backwards kicks or whatever.
I mean, all in all, because he's been very touted as that kind of score involvement, which, that is what it is. I'm not a big fan of score involvement because I think it's kind of arbitrary, but whatever. His meters game was only about 300, so 30 touches, it's going 10 meters forward every touch. So
yeah, I mean, Lachie Neale 36 touches, 367, so not a huge amount more. And it's like that Richmond game earlier on.
It'd be like Zorko. It'd be like Zorko having 300 meters. So it's a little bit different, but I thought Lachie Neale was fantastic anyway. So anyway, we won't go down this rabbit hole because I can.
Absolutely huge. Yeah. One thing, look, I'm happy to take it, but I'm certainly not, as a footy fan, overly proud of it. Is Zach Bailey is becoming he's getting a bit of a knack for drawing a high free kick in the forward 50, and Logan Morris got one as well. I'm not big on it, and if this was happening against us, and it does, Hawthorn, Adelaide did it bloody so much. It's just something I don't like in the game, and whilst it's there, yeah, I get it. You got to exploit it, but Zach Bailey is becoming a bit of a pest with it.
One of the things, and this, I am I'm more horrified at this than I can say. I agreed with, I think it was Dunstall, that Houston just has really bad tackling technique.
Yeah.
Because he was culpable for both of them. And Zach Bailey, in my opinion, put my eye patch on, he lowers to pick the ball up and he's going to drive left.
Yeah.
So he doesn't actually lower his body anymore. He goes to push off to go around Houston, and Houston just tackles badly. Logan Morris one was a little bit stupid, but
and Pendlebury got one earlier in the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times they're fucking pointing at the scoreboard, you're due for something, but it's not quite as egregious as when Walrus Watson gets the ball, takes 3 steps, and then burrows. It's not that. It's all in one motion, so I don't have a problem with it. And when it's Houston that happened twice, I mean, he should have given away a 50-minute penalty for the shove on Logan Morris.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's it's a bit different because they're picking the ball up and they're kind of leaving themselves there a little bit, which is annoying, but it's not as egregious as some of the other ones. The Bailey one I can understand.
It's not as egregious, but it is there, and I wouldn't be surprised if between now and the end of the season or finals or whatever, if they start umpiring Bailey a little bit differently and probably not paying him those because they think he's contributing to them.
Yeah, but I'd say over the course of the season, he's probably only got 4.
Yeah, I think it's just this seems to be a bit of a clump, and it's happening in games where he's a little bit quiet and he's sort of not using it as a way to get back into the game. Having said that, the one that came last night...
come on, mate. He's on bloody Stevie J numbers last night, 2 and 20.
Yeah. Look, like I said at the start, I'm happy to take him, but at the same time, I'm like, don't love it.
What did you think of the Logan Morris one where he got absolutely trollixed by Darcy Moore and was just arms out on the ground underneath him, what?
And then the late call, yeah.
Because Braden Maynard, he made front-on contact that, although that was what the advantage call for the Rayner goal was, but he did that 2 or 3 times earlier on in the game and got away with it each time, and it's what? Yeah. Come on here. So who cares? We won the game. Let's just not think about that kind of mess. But it's funny. There was some good stills and good pictures out of that game. I can tell you what. The one of that woman flipping off Cam Rayner and him just pointing was good. I really like the one of Darcy Moore trying to fight 4 people after after the Cam Rayner goal, and it's how did he get there and what's going on? And he runs off with a big grin on his face. Loved it. So probably spending all of my tickets for the things that I liked in the game top 3 segment that you
we're
do
about
that
to
I
get
forget
into
about.
that.
Yeah, cool, sweet.
And before we do, one honourable mention to, I love a Darcy Wilmot goal, strolling in from 50, just absolutely hoiking it nice and high on the run. And then probably secondary to me just enjoying the fact Darcy Wilmot's kicking goals like that is that Harris Andrews clearly loves it as well, because like the big smile on his face, he runs from full back, gets around him, absolutely brilliant. So
I would have to say categorically at this point in time, Darcy Wilmot's like style of how he looks playing the game is my favourite of any player at the moment. The beard is getting thicker. I love the stealth black boots. Yep. He's aesthetically my favourite player at the moment.
Sure. All right, well, let's get into this week's top 3 moments from the game, or, thereabouts around the game. Could be absolutely anything. I'll go first to give you a chance to think of a few things here. My first moment was actually, I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday morning, but the Fags' press conference. Just frosty Fags, I liked. And the one line that he said was like, he was talking about how last week was an aberration, it's a one-off, and then he sort of doubled down and sort of looked at the reporters, but he was actually talking to like his midfield group and the group as a whole, and he said, it better be. That better be just a one-off. I really enjoyed that because you could tell he had that dog in him. Second, Henry Smith's first shot on goal. Because I know I certainly flash back to, I think it was against Sydney. He had that game last year. As he said, presented well, absolutely munged the kick, and it just ruined his confidence from then on. Like, even when he'd mark the ball well, he'd look for the handball to give it off because he could just tell he was a shell of himself. So for him to drain that first goal, absolutely brilliant. Everyone gets around the big fella, and then he goes on to kick 3. And third was Huey McCluggage's, around the body centre ball to Cam Rayner. Moments after Steele Sidebottom did a similar kick, and the commentators were all glazing how good. There's only a certain amount of players in the AFL that can do that. To kick across your body, spot it, and it was a great kick. Like, it was a great kick from Steele Sidebottom. No arguments there. But for McCluggage to go, all right, well then watch this, and kick it backwards, basically.
Wait, Logan Morris did the same thing on his left.
Yeah,
earlier on, and he does that continuously. But no, I agree. I thought you were going to talk about another McCluggage moment, but
All right, so those are my 3. The Moddy goal was an unlucky omission there. Honourable mention for that one.
Very good. I'll say Henry Smith's third goal. Unfortunately, as it was happening live, now they were doing something super weird with the cameras and stuff. They were using like documentary lenses, and they were using you could never see. They weren't just using the normal TV thing. So that when they had Henry Smith's goal, it was like, oh yeah, that looks good off the boot. And then you saw the normal camera, and it was like a swing bowler. Yeah. Bloody ripped it straight in. Beautiful. Loved it.
Because, it looks like it's going straight through, and the commentators are all like, oh, look at the shape on that. And they're like carrying on. I was like, well, it looked fine to me. And then they showed the other angle, like, oh, I see now.
Yep. Shades of Kalachi. I really liked Hugh McCluggage's tackle on someone. I don't know. It was that front-on tackle. It was so good, where he just went to take him on. Who was that?
Can't really recall, but I can't put the face there, but I remember it. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it happened with McCluggage, and it happened with Rayner really soon after, and it was just okay, cool. Loved it,
and it led to a goal, and a lot of the players got around Huey for that effort.
Yep. I'm just gonna go 2 tackles. They're good. Cool.
Yeah. Fair enough. Hey, this time last week we were carrying on about Fox Footy or Foxtel Football, if you were using the proper name. Reverting to
Foxtel Institution Australian Associate Football League.
Yeah. Reverting to no nicknames, first names only. They've backflipped on that so quick, and the nicknames are back this week. So, yeah.
You got a message about me regarding not about that, but about the Channel 7 Fox special comments thing. That was quite funny.
Yeah, someone has got a bone to pick with you. I think
I'm sorry.
I think it was Matt from memory, who went out of his way to follow us on Instagram and send a message. Mark, sorry, not Matt. I cannot unhear the absolute saturation of special comments on Fox now. Thanks for nothing, Paddy.
Well, he used my pet name, so I guess that's okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Did you see Channel 7 list all of their commentators with nicknames? Like, yeah. I mean, it's first class. Absolute first class.
Yeah, that's real shit.
Votes are going to be really hard to do here.
Oh, yeah.
Do we want to do votes?
Yeah, well, we should, because hopandbrewerytours.com.au are bringing you the best half and full day tours across some of the best breweries in Queensland, and they're bringing you the votes each and every week. 3, Logan Morris. Nice and easy for me, that one. 2, Hugh McCluggage. I thought he was... It's hard to say he was our best midfielder, but certainly our most damaging midfielder. And 1 for Darcy Wilmot for me.
Cool. I like this because we've kind of gone... it now enables me to pick random people.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So there was about 7 players I wanted to pick.
Yeah. I thought Neil had a huge game. Will Ashcroft was huge as well.
Yeah. Will Ashcroft, his first half was a bit like, if I'm going to be, and if I've historically been a bit critical of Nick Dacos's efficiency and sometimes like rare, I have to keep that in mind with Will. Shit. So I'm going to give Darcy Fort 3 votes because I think that he was absolutely pivotal.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to give Darcy Wilmot 2 because I think he was awesome and he really lifted in certain facets of the game that he struggled with the missing of the tackles, and he really made good on that. And Neil gets 1 because that was the best game he's played in a very long time.
Yeah.
And his kind of ground ball gets when we would needed them. Like, they were super important. And yeah, Hugh's really rough to miss out. Obviously, Logan Morris, really rough to miss out. I wanted to give Henry Smith votes, but it's like... Yep. It was just thankful that you gave Logan Morris 3 votes so that I could, spread the love.
Yeah. Honestly...
And absolutely honourable mention to Darcy Gardner and to Harris Andrews and to Starcevic, because Starcevic had to swap opponents heaps because obviously when Frog went down, they were playing with 3 talls, so we had to... I think Starce basically had to keep an eye on both Jamie Elliott and the other guy, the guy from St Kilda with the terrible tattoos. Membry. Yeah. Sort of split between the 2 of them, but so sorry, defensive unit, you were really good.
Yeah, they certainly were, especially as you said, once Froggy went down. And Darcy Gardner, he's just such a scragger, and so he can give away free kicks. And I've always a bit nervous when he's got the ball in hand, what he's going to do with it. But he was a bloke that absolutely pinpointed Darcy Wilmot to set up that goal as well. So
he even got him on the bounce. Really got him on the bounce.
Yeah. Absolutely brilliant from him. So, he's going to be in the team moving forward. What is going to be a bit interesting is what we do this week with any changes, because obviously Froggy's going to come out. As I said, Sydney, Amati's gone, or he's coming back. No, McLean could be coming back. Amati's gone for the season. Logan McDonald also gone for the season. So that forward line isn't exactly tall. Tom McCartan has been in and out with concussion. Same with Hayden McLean. So, and they almost got done by Essendon on the weekend as well. So if we're going to be missing our third tall in Froggy, this is the week to do it against Sydney. It's going to be a little bit more problematic when we come up against Freo. Does Tom Doedee come in? Yes.
I say yes, because why not?
Yeah, I'm with you as well. And it was always once we signed Tom Doedee, it's like, well, whose spot does he take? Because it's obviously not Harris. It's not Payne if he's fit. It's Froggy because he's coming towards the end of his career, maybe. And that third tall role, he is the... And looking at back what we've got in our key defensive stocks in the 2s, and we'll have a chat about the 2s in just a sec, he's the most senior. He's got the most AFL experience. Darragh Joyce is thereabouts, and maybe we go conservative and pick him. Maybe we give Zizi a go, Zakostelski a go. He played well. Luke Lloyd's been playing down back. Sam Day also had a few moments down back in the twos this week as well, so maybe we're trying to boost our key defensive stocks there a little bit as well and get a bit of versatility. But yeah, I think it's time for Tom Doedee to get a game. Even if it's just for the week, he's put together 2-3, maybe a month of VFL football. It hasn't been blistering. He's had some moments. Last week he was pretty good. But yeah, I'm sort of with you as why not? Especially against Sydney at home. No travel involved. The key tools for them aren't exactly the most threatening. Yeah.
I'm just going back to look at the game against Collingwood last year that he was supposed to debut in to try and find what was going on that led to that, and I can't make any sense of it because Lester, Harris Andrews and Payne were all playing. So I'm sort of like, well, why was that going to happen then? But
it probably would have come at the expense of Froggy for no other reason other than he's just like that's just his lot in life, as it has been as the Brisbane Lions for 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think back to what the announcement was because he was announced in the squad, right? Or did they not get to that point? No,
so I think it was literally the last 60 seconds of the main training. He did the press conference pre-training. So it's like, all right, well, he's doing a press conference. This guy's going to get named. They go through training. And I'm not sure if it's like, okay, the last little bit, or if he's even doing extras at the end. But that's when he blows his knee out. And it's like, well, he was all set to play, but now he's not. So, yeah, chuck him in. Like, pressure is a bit off. Like, Sydney's season is done. They've got nothing to play for other than sort of pride and respect and, grand final revenge. So, who knows how fired they're going to be up for this game. Goulden's back in that team. Papley will be back in that team that we faced earlier on this year. So, it'll be a little bit of a different look to them, and they're playing better footy.
So are we, arguably.
Yeah, but their season is done, and we've got stuff to play for here in terms of top four. So yeah, well, throw them in.
Yeah, to me, I think that's the only change to make. I would keep Reveal as the sub, and I liked what Marshall did, and I would like to see more of that to explore conceptually what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else for you?
I don't know. Like, it just depends. It depends how long-term the goals are, because I think at the moment, I think Dev Robb is actually probably in our best team over someone like a Marshall or Bruce Reveal. I
just don't think he gives in a way that Reveal does in terms of transitional play. I don't think Dev Robb is a good transitional player.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And that's far more important at this point in the season, whereas Marshall's there for the long term. So
yeah,
it's strengths and weaknesses, and I think we don't fully know what Sam Marshall's strengths are. He doesn't evidently have a great deal of weakness in terms of what he's doing. Whereas we do know what limitations. It's sort of like Matho. You were never going to bring Matheson in to play as like a winger. It didn't really work.
I think
there was Dev probably... Rob's, as I said, Dev Rob's gained that like midfield girth of playing VFL, where it's just like he's a product of his environment, and he's a machine in the clagged middle of a VFL game. But they're not quite
really
as transitional.
Good on the weekend. He's really good on the weekend.
Yeah, no disservice. But it's a different style of game. I feel like we've had this conversation about multiple players over the years, and I'm not going to name names.
There was a moment or two where Marshall looked a little bit out of position and sort of left wanting. That De Goey example for one, like De Goey just sort of ran past him and Marshall sort of didn't know what was what, and De Goey ended up on the 50 kicking that goal. So
sometimes you go, well, is De Goey actually doing the actual right thing, or is he just gone rogue? So who can really know? Yeah,
and it's hard to know if Marshall was responsible for that or he just happened to be in the area, but he was just guarding grass at that point. So you think to yourself, well, if you see Jordan De Goey running past you, do something about that. But that'll come with experience. Other than that, I thought he's been all right. It just depends on how much AFL football we want to expose him to, and if we're looking to win games now or we're looking long term. And Fague said it in his press conference and after the game when he was interviewed. It's like we had 7 players 22 and under, which is pretty good when you think about it. So obviously we've got the star factor players that we all know about, but it's the young guys doing the work as well, and no more than Logan Morris and Henry Smith up front.
Yes. Oh, I mean, plenty of them. Love it.
Hipwood's game, once again, didn't really affect the scoreboard, but God, his work rate is it's still so phenomenal. It's going to be interesting moving forward what that forward line looks like, next year and beyond, because now we've got Henry Smith that's putting his hand up. Ty Gallop played a really good game on the weekend as well, and he's a long-term prospect. Logan Morris, obviously, Henry Smith, Draper and Oscar Allen potentially coming into this team, what that forward mix is going to look like, 2, 3 talls. That mix-up is going to be looking very interesting moving forward.
Yeah, that's a problem for next year, so no comment.
Kick the can down the road there on that one. I couldn't help but think about it over the week when we named Henry Smith, and then again once he performed, and then we're getting these other tools potentially coming through the club. What's going to happen with Oscar? What's going to happen with Darcy? And Henry Smith is just like, he's there now. Yeah, it's interesting. Henry obviously gets another game. Like, you're not dropping him.
Yeah, I can't see the value in doing that. I think unfortunately O's not in our best 22 at the moment, which sucks. And we talked about that. And I think I said like 3 weeks ago that, by hook or by crook, we'd get O a medal. I have to renege that, unfortunately. The medal is not a foregone conclusion, so we have to get there to get the medal. But it's as I've said before, it's all good problems to have.
Yep.
I know the human farm was not received super popularly, but if you can get good draft capital for certain players going in and out, even if they're not playing much football, that's okay, because whatever, it's fine.
Last week we brought in Connor McKenna, and you said it was sort of at the expense of Kai Loman, the small forward thing. We didn't sort of make any changes with that. I was a bit surprised McLaughlin isn't getting the call up. Are you still... I mean, it's hard to obviously make any changes to a team that's had a really good win away from home against the top of the ladder team. But that small forward mix, and it might be a case of, who we're coming up against and their defensive stocks. Is that something we need to probably think about? Or do you like the mix at the moment of Hipwood, Morris, Henry Smith, and then, Rayner, Charlie Cameron and Bailey and others flying through?
Calamachi. Cal was a bit quiet last night, which is totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, they did the opposite to how I justified Marshall not getting a game last week. So, whether they're trying to slight me or spite me or whatever they want. But, we sort of just had another runner. It's hard to know realistically what would have happened or how it was supposed to go with Leicester going down the first quarter. So, difficult to kind of pick the bones out of the structural elements of how we were supposed to play. But I think... they probably were able to kind of go through what the role for Marshall would be, knowing early on that, Loman would be out. And I don't think that they changed the system going forward because the forward pressure was really good. The forward turnover was great. And is it the sort of thing where Marshall and Levi and Jared Berry all being there to support the mids is what gives you that, 2 or 3% more from your main guys in the midfield? It just takes a little bit of load off, maybe. But I mean, I would, the only change I would make would be Duday in for Leicester, and then prospectively Leicester coming back in the following week, just for that consistency element. Yeah,
I'm probably not too far away from you on that one. So we'll see. In a way, I will be surprised if they do pull the trigger on Duday because they've been so cautious with it, and he hasn't, as I said, he hasn't blown it up in the VFL. But on the other side, it's like, well, now our hands are a little bit forced to make a change in that back six with the tall defender, someone with experience and this is, take the pressure off sort of game, as I said. So we'll see come Thursday what happens there. Before we do talk about the twos and the VFL there, the girls had their second hit out against Sydney. Brighton Homes Arena. That game was sort of done and dusted at halftime. The gap was closed a little bit. Ended up winning by a bit over 2 goals. Sophie Conway was huge. Brie Conan and Nat Grider, as always, really good. And Ulra Dwyer was back to somewhere near her best as well. And Kathy Spark, my goodness. So I'll be interested to see how we go this year when the girls' season starts. Something to look forward to. All right, let's have a chat about the twos. Oh, God. Did you watch any of this? VFL commentary shits me.
I didn't. Is Cody Waitman moonlighting as himself playing for the Coburg Lions? I'm guessing that's a no.
No. Very annoying because obviously both of their teams, Coburg Lions, Brisbane Lions, and the amount of times that I guess the lead VFL commentator would say the Lions of the Brisbane variety, Lions of the Coburg variety, then he would refer to Coburg as the Burgers, which I quite liked. But then there was also a couple of guys that play for Coburg with the last name Walker. So it was like, oh, Walker of the Josh variety. It's like, man, if I hear this again, I'm going to blow up here. It's such a little thing to get caught up on, but that's where I'm at. Dev was awesome.
Hey, come on. I'm like the pettiest person ever. So, of course, I'm going to empathise with this. Go on.
Dev was awesome. Reece Torrent had a really good game as well. He's putting together a really good season in the twos and would be podium finish for the VFL BNF at the end of it. Dan Annabelle back in the scene as well. He had a pretty good game. Shadow Brain, his kicking is it's a shame it's getting wasted in VFL. He's not having the best games in the twos, but his kicking is elite. Zach Ostelski, as I said, he had a pretty good game, and Ty Gallup ended up with 3 goals. So he's putting his name forward. Obviously, the one of the big talking points from the twos is that Academy product Cooper Hodge made his debut for the Brisbane Lions in the VFL. He had a pretty okay game for a 16-year-old. Ended up with 1 goal too. My man Ty Prindable ended up having an all right game as well. So yeah,
Hodge had 6 tackles for a child.
Yeah, not bad.
Where was he playing on the field?
Sort of half forward role, maybe like coming up to stoppage a little bit, but mostly as a half forward.
There's going to be some absolute pitchforks if he elects the Lions. Like pitchforks.
There will be, and rightly so. Like I'm big on this. He needs to play for Hawthorn.
Yeah, true. But I mean, so as I said, it's having a discussion with a certain individual on a certain platform, and I think if the Lions hadn't turned around their fortunes when Fagan turned up, and we were still bottom of the table, I don't think that the Ashcrofts would have elected to father and son, and I don't think anyone would have bat an eyelid about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mark Murphy looked at us and said no thanks when he was available to select us via father-son. In the same way that Nick Blakey could have been North Melbourne father and son, he said, "Nah, I might go play for Sydney." Actually, so
well, I mean, but if you look at it in the sense of Cooper Hodge, so if I'm a young person and you're going, okay, would I want to learn from McCluggage and Lockie Neal and Will Ashcroft and that sort of thing, or do I want to go and hang out with Fingers Up, Birds Up, Ginnivan and the Wizard and like Sicily? I understand it, but I mean, I know what I'm picking. I don't think
I know
anyone,
what you're picking, but Luke Hodge is a legend of that club.
But that's it. So Luke Hodge is a legend at Hawthorn, but he is not Hawthorn through and through. He has a very, very, very large soft spot for the Lions.
Yeah.
Very large soft spot. So I think we did a lot for him, and I think he has good feelings about the Lions. So yeah, no. For example, he's not as much as a Hawthorn shill as, say, Jordan Lewis, who, although Jordan Lewis played the same number of seasons elsewhere,
he probably even played more footy at Melbourne than Hodgie played for us.
He might have played 3 years, But yeah, either way, Hodgie, whilst being a Hawthorn legend, he is also he's a Brisbane guy.
Nah, I'm prepared to die on the hill that Cooper Hodge needs to play for Hawthorn. Because I'm a footy romantic, so, I love that, I love Riley West playing for the Dogs. I love that Jackson Archer's playing for North Melbourne, and all these players I grew up watching to see their sons play for their respective teams as well is, I like that. So I hope it continues, but, Cooper Hodge is his own man and can make his own decisions. So we'll see what happens in a couple of years' time when he's ready to get drafted.
Tell you what, I'm happy Dunkley plays for us and not Sydney.
Yeah. Well, Sydney will be absolutely spewing that Josh Dunkley has beaten them in 2 grand finals.
As they should be.
All right, let's have a look at tipping, and at the moment it's 3 p.m. on a Sunday, so the round isn't over, and I'm sure you're going to look forward to rubbing one particular tip in my face. I certainly didn't see Thursday night coming, where the Dogs absolutely bollocks the Giants. That was crazy. Yeah,
I filled in for a friend's beach volleyball team on Thursday night and was like, all right, well,
sure.
I'll just watch. I mean, I was a state representative volleyballer in high school, but I hadn't played in 17 years, so still had the moves. I still hate tall people, but that's all right. And then after I'd finished, I looked over and saw that it was like a 48-point lead in the second quarter. I'm like, well, I'm not going home to watch this.
That's crazy.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, I did slightly better than you on the margin, but ridiculous.
Friday night was that was an absolute ball terror of a game. Adelaide and Hawthorn. I loved every second of that. Yeah, Melbourne to beat West Coast. We all sort of saw that coming. Gold Coast were going to beat Richmond. Sydney unconvincingly beating Essendon, who broke the Fitzroy record of debutants in a season. So that's an unwanted record we can finally strip our names of. Yep, I tipped the Pies, and I got what I deserved.
I think that brings us to a 4 wins, 2 loss for you tipping against the Lions.
Sure.
I'm fairly sure. I can't 100% remember, but I think you tipped Geelong both times.
Possibly.
And you tipped Collingwood both times.
Yeah,
and you tipped Gold Coast once.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Stats, all good. I obviously tipped the Lions.
And then still to play, St Kilda is currently wrestling with North Melbourne. And at this stage, it is basically even. What's that, second quarter, third quarter? Cats to play later against Port and Freo will probably beat Carlton, you'd have to think.
You would have to think.
No
yes,
Charlie
indeed.
Curnow. So, yeah. Let's have a look to next week. Big one Thursday night, Hawks, Pies at the G.
I'm going to tip Collingwood, but I think Hawthorn will win. So a bit like last week where I said I'm going to tip Adelaide, but I think Hawthorn will win, which didn't work out. So
they were
hedging your bets.
Good though, the Hawks.
Yeah, they were. It was that hill end, all the goals there.
Yeah.
I mean, the game got a little bit over umpired towards the end of it, but is what it is. Will Day.
It's a big out. Yeah, big out.
So I think looking at it, I think I have Hawthorn not making finals.
They've got a tough run. And we've got them in the last round. And if they are playing for a spot in the finals, then we can expect a really tough game. But Will Day is a big out for them. Their record with and without him is something silly, and I don't know if it's all due to his impact or just coincidence, but he's certainly a big out.
It feels to me like Dylan Moore's been really not very good this year. I just haven't seen him. He was All-Australian last year, right?
Yeah, he had a really great year last year. His last couple of weeks have been much better, but yeah, compared to last year, his season, his output has been down.
He doesn't seem quite as threatening, but yeah, who cares? It's Hawthorn. Okay, so that's that one. Geelong versus Essendon.
Yep. How many is Jeremy Cameron going to kick there?
Will Jeremy Cameron crack the ton Now, I have a question. Hypothetically, if Geelong made the grand final and Jeremy Cameron kicked his 100th goal on grand final day, would people storm the Oval?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Because I know Fraser Garrick did it in, I think, 04 in the prelim.
Yeah.
And that caused a cataclysmic momentum shift for Port Adelaide to then win.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it would be context dependent, but I think people will just look for the excuse to storm and they'll storm.
Savages. Well, let's hope he doesn't do that, because I think that would be, albeit kind of weird, but, you know, I feel like people would end up getting like tased and maced and stuff like that. There'd be grenades going off with tear gas. Anyway, kick 8?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. St Kilda or Richmond?
At the G, it's a tough one. Richmond are plucky and they will pull something out. But I'm going to go the Saints, but don't be surprised if the Tigers win that.
Nice. Obviously us. Then we've got Carlton and Gold Coast.
Suns.
I don't know why this one seems to be 30-70 split. That's insane. And then this 50-50. Now, is this Ken's last game at Port Adelaide, or not at Port Adelaide, but do they have home games or whatever?
I think they've got the Suns in the last round at Adelaide Oval.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out why this is a 50-50. So
probably because not a lot of people are doing their tips this early out as well.
Yeah, it's probably like 3 people.
Yeah. Freo.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty all right from here.
Giants to beat North, Dogs to beat Melbourne, and Adelaide to do whatever the hell they want with the West Coast Eagles.
So what are we at here? How many? What's your numbers
in terms of where we're standing in the comp?
Total, yeah.
Oh God.
How do I find
you're sitting at 44th with 123. I'm sitting 56th with 121. So you're two up on me now.
Excellent. I love that. Joe Danaher's still leading the way.
Yeah, three on top now. So absolutely killing it. Looks like
I don't think I can foreseeably win now, because 10 tips is very hard to overcome with this many rounds left, and so many poor teams playing so many good teams. So, bit of wheel.
Let's get into the wheel for another week.
It's my choose or skip, right?
Yes. Oh, Mitch Clark.
The man who ended Brownie's career. I will skip on Mitch Clark.
Righto. That's a shame. Oh, Stevie Lawrence. A couple of multi-club players here.
I'm going to frantically look up who Stevie Lawrence is, because I recognise the name, but I am absolutely drawing a blank.
He was one of the very early on Brisbane Lions, and it didn't take long for him to go to St Kilda.
Did he have blonde, kind of curly-ish hair?
Yeah, it was definitely curly-ish. I'm not sure how blonde it was.
No, I'd say that's blonde hair. He kind of, I was going to say he kind of had a bit of almost like a Ryan Lester sort of look to him, but I think that's pretty harsh on Ryan Lester, to be perfectly honest. Well, okay. I know more about Mitch Clark than I do Steve Lawrence. I'm sorry. This is going to be another one of these ones where I've bundled into a player that I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. He left in 2001 and sucked in for leaving in 2001 because we won 3 flags.
I don't know that he was going to be part of those teams regardless of whether he stuck around or not.
But he would have partied with those teams. So.
Yeah, true. One memory I have of Stephen Lawrence was when I played Auskick at Waverley, and it was Brisbane versus St Kilda back in the day. And I think Stevie Lawrence actually had a really good game. And it was back in the day where Waverley had that scoreboard, like the big screen, where it wasn't colour, but it wasn't black and white. It was sort of like...
Black and orange?
Yeah, it was like sepia. And I just remember like a big Stevie Lawrence up on that stupid scoreboard and going, I like that guy because he plays for my team and I'm about to go play for the Brisbane Lions on Waverley Park. So there you go. That's a vague memory of Stevie Lawrence.
See, I've got more memories of the Gabba scoreboard that was that kind of black and gold that had very rudimentary animations on it, more than I have of Stephen Lawrence. Yeah, look, I've made my own breakfast here, and I also, I loaded it early with the remark about Jonathan Brown. So talk about Mitch Clark, will you? And I will get slated in the comments, understandably so, by someone who invariably their favourite player of all time will have been Stephen Lawrence. So,
and look, if that's you, please reach out. We'd love to hear from people that definitely have better and longer and larger memories of Stevie Lawrence than we do. I mean, Mitch
shoot me down, please.
Was it 2009? Where he was just absolutely blowing it up as that ruck forward. It was just after Leuenberger, or sort of around the same time Leuenberger was coming through. Mitch Clark was really putting his name forward as all-Australian ruckman. He had one of those years in 2008, 2009, and he was definitely part of that team where we beat Carlton in that elimination final. And then, mental health and all that sort of stuff, he decided this is not for me anymore, went down to Melbourne, played a handful of games, and I think he suffered a pretty bad injury in his time at Melbourne. I can't remember if it was like a broken leg or an ACL or something like that. He had a big layoff in his time down there and then took time out as well for mental health before just going to Geelong to watch his career just sort of dwindle away. Played some all right footy at Geelong, but another one of those players that we've spun up on the wheel that really could have been anything if, certain things had gone different ways. But he definitely played his best footy for us before deciding that he'd probably had enough. And then he got into photography. I'm not sure if he's still doing his photography stuff. I don't actually know what Mitch Clark's doing these days, but I know he got right into photography towards the end of his career and after he retired.
Get some uniquely high-angle photos, you can assume.
Yeah.
Well, that was a bit of a...
a bit of a dud wheel this week. That's fine.
Not even really any controversies, really. But, yes, all the best to the two of them, wherever they might be. Yeah. You're being spoken about, albeit due to random chance. So, good.
Let's have a look at next week. We're taking on the Swans, 4:15 at the Gabba. VFL 11:05 on the Saturday, Brighton Homes Arena against Casey. I don't understand why for suddenly this week we didn't play the Collingwood VFL team, and now next week we're not playing... Sydney don't have a VFL team, or do they?
They've got to, right?
No, but they've got the bye, and we're playing Melbourne's VFL team. I don't understand that sort of fixturing. Whatever, who cares? As I said before, Sydney's got nothing to play for in terms of finals aspirations anymore. The Giants sort of, thankfully, ended that last week. Their key forward stocks, as I mentioned before as well, are depleted, and who knows if Hayden McLean's coming back into that situation as well. We'll have to wait for the injury reports on Tuesday. So, all in all, our second to last home game in the home and away season against a team that, as most would expect, been pretty disappointing this year after a pretty great year last year, grand final aside. It's just so clear that Errol Goulden makes so much difference, and Heaney, who's had a quiet start to the year, his last sort of 3-4 weeks have been huge.
They're missing some really just key people. Yeah. And I don't even mean like specifically people that are actual people. I mean sort of structural elements. They need some tall players, front and back. What a weird team. Who the hell is Jay Datterley?
That I can't tell you.
What about Jay Buller?
That I can't tell you.
And what about D. Rampe?
That I can tell you. He's a strange cat.
Gotcha.
He's a strange cat.
Your man Sheldrick will be there, the Pokemon.
Yeah, he's put together a good year. Do you think Cal Archie has the role on Blakey again?
Well, I think it's probably more the case of Blakey probably has to go to one of our tolls out of their necessity, right? Because they don't really have anyone else. What are you going to do? I guess you got Melican, McCartan, Rampy. Rampy's not really that tall, you know?
McCartan is such an unknown quantity at the moment with his head knocks and stuff. So I don't even know if he's going to play. One thing for sure is, especially these last, 5-6 weeks, Brodie Grundy is playing, 2017 football. All of a sudden, he's just making a late charge for All-Australian. His game yesterday was off the charts, 39 touches and 30-odd disposals, 16 clearances, something like that. And Errol Goulden burnt him. He had him on the outside to get his 40. And, you never handball to a ruckman is what he said. So he's playing good footy.
I think they pointed out accurately that their coach is a ruckman, so who's perpetuating that notion? But yeah, Grundy's playing some good football, albeit I haven't watched really any of it because, watching Sydney is not my bag. So
yeah, I must admit I haven't watched a huge amount of Sydney this year either.
It's hard to watch teams that are sort of vaguely relevant. I definitely watched the GWS Sydney game the other week, but and Grundy had a good game. Briggs is good. Sometimes you can just get on a bit of a run, and a lot of them were, cheeky little handballs here and there. So hopefully Fort will be able to give him nightmares.
Yeah, it'll be another good test for him.
Yeah, it'll be a different sort of test because, although Grundy, he's kind of become a bit more bulky and contested, he was always kind of the athletic prototype for the ruck, going back 5 plus years. So he'll at least be stretched a little bit around the ground for it, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. I was so nervous for this game coming up against Collingwood that I usually think 1, 2, 3 weeks in advance. I always check the injury list. Like before the Suns game, I was like, okay, what's Collingwood's list looking like? What can we expect? I just did not look any further in this game against Collingwood because it was so big. And even in the first quarter, I was still just like real fidgety, just sort of sitting there, like, tapping my knees and all that sort of stuff. So all my tickets were spent on that one. So I'm sort of like a bit blasé when it comes to this game, and it's sort of in a nothing time as well, 4:15 or whatever it is, Saturday afternoon. But it'll be good. Like, I'm looking forward to heading along to the Gabba and watching it, and I don't think it's going to be the barnstormer that it was, round 19 or whatever it was last year, where it was 2 points in the end, which is, one of the all-time games. So, having said that, it's the exact sort of game that we would drop as well.
Why are you saying that? I think this is going to be an exercise in can the collective, and not to say that they've got better players than us, but can the collective kind of come together and do more? We know where the threats are for Sydney, and it's just a matter of neutering those where you can. I think Josh Dunkley's probably going to have had a couple of rough weeks, really, although he wasn't playing strictly on Nick Dacos, he would put in some big, heavy sprints and to probably be doing the same thing on Isaac Heaney. He might be a sore boy afterwards, but it's a get the job done. It's a don't fuck this up, please game.
Well, I can only hope that, my thoughts of I wasn't looking ahead of the Collingwood game aren't echoed by the playing group, and then this is just such an afterthought. I hope they didn't cash in all their tickets on that Collingwood game, knowing how big it was going to be, because, like I said, that fight for top 4, top 2 is still right on. We're half a game behind Adelaide and Collingwood now, and those two will be playing against each other as well in a couple of weeks. So our top 2 spot is definitely up for grabs. So we need to win out. We've got some tough games after this Sydney game, but we can't just treat it as a nothing burger.
There was an element to the game last night that it sort of, having watched Adelaide and Hawthorn, and that was a good game, but it was a bit of a different game to ours, where it felt like with Collingwood and the Lions playing, it was like, all right, you've seen that last night. We'll show you what the big boys are like when they played. Like, to me, I still think that the Lions and Collingwood are the two best teams. I don't mind Adelaide being where they are because, we saw it in 2019, no finals experience. We finished high up the ladder. It's not a guarantee. And although the Adelaide Oval's a hard place to go to, I don't think it's... I mean, the Gabba was a hard place to go to in that year. So, plus also the multitude of key forwards is... It's not a great thing to bank on in finals. So, yeah, it just seemed a little bit a cut above in terms of skill. And although we did, put Collingwood, fairly enough to the sword... It seemed like a step up in quality and one of the first sort of proper bona fide finals style games compared to some of the other ones. The Fremantle one a few weeks ago was there too. But it's an interesting little thing that I feel like I noticed. It could be wrong. People could have other opinions, of course, as well, but that's mine. So,
and it's probably location based, but the fact that last night on Fox we got Hutto and Jared Waitley, they didn't, fly him out to Adelaide to call the Friday night game that they normally call. I thought that was a bit of a sign as well that anticipation-wise they sort of built themselves for Saturday night rather than Friday night as well. But like I said, it's probably just geography more than anything else at that stage.
Who called on...
See that? I can't tell you.
Because I listened to 7 on Friday, which was fine. It's good.
Yeah. Could have been Dwayne, actually. Dwayne's a big SA guy, so maybe. Actually,
that is true. I think I put it on, it was Dwayne and it was Dunstall and Gary, and I was like, oh, not today, dudes. Not today. Unfortunate to see, both fortunate that Abby Holmes is back after her having a baby, but also sad to see Kate McCarthy not there on 7, because she's good analyst. That is what it is. Have we got any questions?
Yeah, let's do a couple of Chris Communications questions. chriscoms.co. If you've got a business, small, medium, and you need any sort of marketing, you've got your own podcast, then make sure you get in touch with Abby and the team. With Chris Comms, they're giving you free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers as well at our website. You can get the link there as well. We did have a question from Ben, and it was... based on Ryan Lester, who do we think comes in for him? We have touched on that today. He put Darragh Joyce forward as well, so it's an option. But I think the form has been relatively the same between those two, and you might as well give Duday a go, considering he's come into the fray there. No other real questions coming through. There was one for you regarding your preferences when it comes to media.
Oh, yeah, I made a comment about Jay Clark and someone said, oh, is there anyone in the media that you like? And my response to that is yes, but, and I generally don't engage with thems who I don't like, but unfortunately when you're hogtied by Fox, there's not a lot you can do. So I will continue to complain about the Fox people because I think the majority that I dislike are there. I like Waitley and I like, Hutto's fine. Not my super cup of tea, but they're all right. Dunstall and Gary, nah. Jay Clark, nah.
I love you can't. No, Dunstall's awesome. Like
Dunstall's fine, but he can get in this weird. Like him and Gary Lyon, they feed off each other, and they it's sometimes it's a bit like when. Never mind, but I think I made a comment of Jay Clark making David King and Jack Riewoldt look like actual experts. But no, there are plenty of media personalities that I like and I respect. They just are the ones that I engage with, and unfortunately, given the broadcast deal, which, have you heard anything about that, where the Danzig or whatever the hell it's called, I keep calling it Danzig and I don't know why I keep calling it Danzig.
Bit of Glenn Danzig for your footy broadcast. Imagine that. Imagine if we got Danzig to call footy. This is going to throw so many people off that don't know who Danzig is. old singer.
He's the guy from the Misfits?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
DAZN is the company you're thinking of, who I think were responsible for because they're USA based, and they do bring you a lot of boxing. So I have got a DAZN account. I only subscribe when there's a fight that I want to watch. But
you want those concussion cheerers, are you?
Yeah, something like that.
Bit of a boxer.
Fair they enough. Bought out Foxtel, and was it Eddie Maguire saying that they're probably having a look at how much money they've spent on AFL and gone, actually, nah, can we not spend that money there? So who knows what's going to happen with that?
It may make some of those contracts that go past the broadcast deal a bit tenuous.
Oh, yeah.
Cozzy Pickett and etc. If I was, Harley Reid or whatever, I'd be trying to bank a long contract early. So,
Looks like he'll be staying at West Coast at this stage.
yeah, it is what it is. That's fine. He can stay there. They can all stay everywhere.
All right, that'll wrap things up for this week. A game against the Swans this Saturday. We're looking forward to that, but let's just revel in this win against the Pies because it was absolutely huge.
I think you find it should be we should reveal in this environment.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks, Danzig. See you later.